The next thing that we have to talk about is going to be the Primary Arms HTX, which is a made in America PLX red dot from Primary Arms. So this got announced, I believe, yesterday. So let's go ahead and listen to this while I'm dying.
What's up? It's Steve with Primary Arms Optics with some super exciting news for you today. We are going to be talking about something that we've kind of hinted at over the last couple of years. If you've been paying attention, you know we've been standing up manufacturing here in Houston, Texas. That's right, we're starting to make stuff here in the USA. The first product that we are bringing to market from our new manufacturing facility is the new Primary Arms Optics PLX series HTX-1. HTX because we're here in Houston, Texas, so why not call it where it's being made with the first Houston produced optic in our industry. Some of the new features of the HTX optic, which are completely different than any of the other ones out there, it is not footprint specific. So it doesn't matter what you're mounting it on, whether it's a Glock with an MOS cut, whether it's something with an RMR, whether it is a rail grabber. It doesn't matter. You don't have to buy specific models for your specific product. It is one model and it's adaptable to about 95% of the optics cut pistols that are on the market today. We do that with the patent pending chassis system. So the chassis system actually takes the footprint of the optic itself, and that's what.
All right. So it's supposed to be, instead of having the optic fit multiple slides, you have like a adapter metal plate that the optic gets screwed into. So it's kind of a unique solution, at least different. So could be interesting, but there's some issues that we'll talk about in just.
What's adapting it to your pistol slide. With the three chassis that come with the HTX itself, you have one for the RMR A cut, one for the RMR B cut, so things like your ZEV slides or anything with those threaded bosses that go up into the optic itself, or directly compatible with the Glock MOS cut. Using these chassis, we can also get these things lower than any of the other enclosed or open reflexes on the market. You can see on some of the pistols that we've got here, mounted on a standard Glock MOS cut, the bottom of our window is actually level with the top of the slide. So
yeah, so it's just plates with a different name, basically. It's still using a plate, but instead of buying, well, I guess no, it would kind of work the same way because you're still buying a different plate for each cut, but the way it mounts to the optic doesn't change. So it's basically still the same thing.
You don't need to swap your sights out for suppressor height sights. You don't need to have that big boat anchor grappling hook hanging off the front of your gun anymore. You don't have to change your holsters anymore. All you've got to do is slide our dot on and you're good to go. You can completely co-witness through our HTX-1 with your stock height Glock sights. No need to change them anymore. Now, the overall footprint of this is still extremely small. So the housing itself is just over 22 millimeters wide, and we're at about 18 millimeters tall. Our window is actually 20 millimeters by 15 millimeters. So that 20 by 15 only accounts for a very small portion of the actual size of the optic. So we're not obscuring a lot of that peripheral view with the body of the optic itself, like some of the other enclosed reflexes that have a very large bezel and end up blocking a lot of your peripheral. We've reinforced the housing on both ends of it, so it is extremely drop and impact resistance.
We'll see about that. So I am probably going to buy one of these. Now, of course, I am, full disclosure, I'm a dealer for Primary Arms Optics. I buy a lot of stuff from their wholesale. I do sell some of their stuff on their website. This is a made in America, made in Texas optic. So I am probably going to buy one. Now, as you can probably tell, being a PLX optic, which is their platinum line, and being made in Texas, it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be cheap. So
we're running a CR2032 battery that's side mounted, so you don't have to take your dot off to replace the battery. We've actually got 4 different screws to mount this dot itself to the chassis. So we've got one coming in from each side.
So yeah, the way that this mounts is very interesting, which will take, fortunately on their website, they have all of the pictures of how it works, which is unique. So I'll give them that.
And then 2 going in through the front. Now by doing that, and with the 3D design of our chassis system, we actually have recoil and impact mitigation from all axes. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to rack your slide with the pistol dot itself, if you drop it, if you bang it against the side, if you're going through a doorway and you smack it on top, all of the energy that goes into that dot goes into the chassis and into the slide, and none of it gets put into the hardware itself. And it's not really going to add anything to delay the timing of your slide or the cycling and operation of your slide itself. As long as your pistol has an optics cut, it's ready to go. The HTX-1 is actually available with 2 separate reticles right out of the gate. You're going to have just a standard 4 MOA dot, which is just like pretty much any of the other dots out there. Nice, crisp, clean, and sharp center aiming point. Or you have the option for our patented ACSS Vulcan reticle. Now, for any of you guys that don't know what the Vulcan reticle is, it's a 250 MOA outer circle. It's designed to fall outside of the field of view as long as you're holding.
The ACSS Vulcan reticle is kind of I've gone back and forth on it because I have one actually. So talking about Primary Arms pistol optics for a second. Primary Arms has made 4 different variations of their pistol optics. They have the SLX, Mini, Micro, and they have, what else do they have? They have the RS10 and the GLX RS15. I have tried all 4 of their pistol optics. They have yet to make a good one. So maybe on attempt number 5, they can actually make something that is worth buying. And it's, of course, going to be the most expensive one made in America.
Your gun correctly. If you come up off access, bad grip coming out of the holster, you're shooting around a barricade or you're shooting offhand, then you will see that circle sort of come into the window, where with a traditional dot, if it's just a dot, you'll actually lose the dot and you got to.
Ben Steger, I think Ben Steger said something about this, like it's a reticle designed for people who can't shoot. And the way to never need an ACSS reticle is just to practice all of these different things, right? You know, if it's like, if you're designing ways for people to find their dot if they can't find it, they probably can't shoot all that great to begin with. They don't have enough reps. I'm sure for some people who don't have the time, for worse shooters, it can definitely be a crutch to help you out in the beginning, but there is no replacement for just actually getting good. So for me, the ACSS Vulcan reticles on their handguns, pretty much a big waste of time, at least for me.
Sit there and fish for it.
Let's see. Nova says that this Vulcan has a dash string. Does the one you have tried have that? Let me go grab mine. I think it's sitting right there.
With the Vulcan, you don't. You can see the outside of that circle, and you know which way to drive your gun to get it back to center, to get it back on target, saving time, saving a lot of headache, making those split times faster, making first rounds on target much, much faster. Now, you can turn that outer circle off if you don't want it. It's really easy. The push button interface on the HTX-1 has a very...
No, so mine has, I have the RS15 here, which is not a good dot. This is like a doctor footprint. Look at those tiny, tiny buttons on that guy. This is the GLX RS15 ACSS Vulcan reticle. So it has the center dot and the huge 250 MOA outer circle. Mine is a solid circle, but it still does the same thing, right? The reason you might segment the circle, in my mind, is to save a little bit of battery life, because one thing about illuminating that huge dot is it also eats up quite a bit of battery life.
very, very simple button logic. So if you push either one, that will turn it on. If you want it brighter, you push the plus. If you want it dimmer, you push the minus. And if you want to turn that circle off, you push and hold the plus button for 3 seconds. That will cycle the circle either on or off, depending on the current status of the dot. Now to turn it off, you're going to push and hold both.
So I get the idea that the circle seems good for odd presentations. Absolutely. But the best way to not need the circle, and the fastest way, is just to practice some of those odd presentations, shooting from different positions, one-handed draws, left-handed or off-handed, whatever that happens to be for you, right? That's the best way to actually get good. Because if you're relying on, I know I'm going to miss or not draw it properly, so I'll just rely on the red dot to tell me where I need to go. That's going to be way slower than just knowing where you actually need to go. Right. And if you're shooting very fast, it's actually not going to pull up on here, but somebody says that the big circle is kind of just a distraction because as you're drawing and presenting, if you're trying to shoot very quickly, you're just looking for the color on the target in the A zone, you pull the trigger, right? So having that huge circle as you're drawing it up, for some people, that's just more information than what they want. They want to see a dot appear on the target where they want to where they want that bullet to go, and then pull the trigger, right?
The buttons for 3 seconds and that'll shut the dot off, but it's not really necessary because we have our Autolive technology baked into it. The Autolive is kind of more advanced in this one, so it's actually a two-part Autolive. Once the gun sits still for 15 seconds, the outer circle shuts off with the ACSS.
So there's a lot of debate going on about the Vulcan reticle, and some of it I get, right, from a marketing standpoint. Makes a lot of sense. So the Vulcan seems like something you might as well put in. Just turn it off if you don't need it. No need for multiple SKUs. Correct. I imagine the Vulcan emitter is a little more expensive, so I think there's a $50 delta between the Vulcan version and then just the 4MOA dot version. So they can sell it to both people, right? You can be like, this is the best made in America optic, and it's going to help you shoot a little better if you're not too good, right? So you can charge them a little bit more money. And then for everybody else is like, I don't really want that. They can save a little bit of money and grab the one that they actually want, right? Because if they just charged $700 for the Vulcan reticle, sure, you can turn it off, but people aren't going to want to spend the extra money for a feature they don't want in the first place, right? So I'm probably just going to buy the generic 4MOA dot version.
Variant because it figures if you're holding still for 15 seconds, you're on target, you don't need the ring. Now we do that to save battery life. Once the gun sits still for 3 minutes, it goes to sleep completely. And then of course, as soon as you touch the gun or move the gun, everything turns back on. So you're not going to have any delay at all. Most people don't even know that it shuts off. So it's built for that always on status. So you turn it on once you get it and you leave it until we decide not to have it done anymore. So if you guys do have any more questions about it, please feel free to check out.
Most people are probably going to gravitate towards just the 4MOA dot. Most people who are average shooters or very good shooters, they don't want that extra stuff, right? So don't give me 9 extra features that I'm just going to turn off. Just give me what I want, and I will take that money and put it towards something that I actually care about.